Back. Time for a big story. Greg Jennings and Mark Schlereth in for Whitlock and Wiley. TJ Hushmanzada, Sean Merriman are back. Let's move to Dallas, where the Cowboys are getting ready for a wild card matchup with the Seahawks this week, but they're already facing a new round of doubters. According to the USA Today, the Cowboys are the worst team in the playoffs, despite winning the NFC East and earning a home playoff game. Mark, are the Cowboys really the worst team in the playoffs?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think ultimately, like that doesn't, Cowboy haters bring it on. I mean, I think ultimately, when you look at the quarterbacks and you look at the way the teams are constructed in the NFC playoffs, who do you trust the least? Like, if it comes down to, if you're game planning, you're saying, okay, these are the things we have to take away, right? And we're going to make one guy beat us, or we're going to make, it's the New England Patriots philosophy. We're going to make you play left-handed. We're going to make somebody other than your stars beat you. So you've got to deal with the running game and Amari Cooper. But I think you're ultimately going, okay, we're going to load the box. We're going to play, some type of double coverage, either, swoop somebody underneath Amari Cooper or jam him up and play trail with somebody over the top. But we're basically going to take him away, and we're going to make Dak beat us. This guy has over 50 sacks from holding on the ball. I mean, there are times when I'm like, that thing is not a baby. If you pat it one more time, it will not burp. Throw the damn thing, right? So, I mean, you're looking at that and saying, yeah, they've got a really good defense. Yeah, their offensive line has been good. They've run the ball. But who do I trust the least when the pressure and the game is on the line to throw the football down the field and make completions? And that would be Dak. That's just kind of the year he's had.
That's strong. That's strong. For me, it's hard for me to say that they're the worst team in the playoffs.
Who's worse?
Well, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles twice in the regular season. I understand it's the regular season, but they beat them twice. They have the best running game in all of football. Ezekiel Elliott led the league in rushing.
Right.
Defense top 7. So you have all these pieces. Dak Prescott obviously has his weapons, but when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, do you really trust Nick Foles in that offense and that defense who's been hurt? I understand they're playing well, but Nick Foles just is coming off of injury. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. Going into Chicago, I just don't know if I take the Cowboys to be the worst team in the playoffs.
Even if they were the second or worst, they're still bad. I mean it's only one team up. They're not moving from like last to second or third. But, look at the season they had, but you need more than that in the playoffs. We've all been there. When you get there, you just need more than that. Running game, the defense. That's when the quarterback's got to step up. And you look at who they're playing. They're going to play Russell Wilson. I play with him. I know when it comes down to when the game's on the line, he's going to make he's going to make less mistakes than Dak Prescott will. I think that's why this more of the conversation, because they could be going home. They probably, more than likely they're going home. If they were playing somewhere else, if they were playing the Eagles, if they're playing with another team, then yeah, they maybe have a shot. But they're playing Russell Wilson in the Seattle Seahawks. They're going home. So I don't think this conversation is far off no matter how you look at it. They probably, the second at best worst team in the playoffs.
I can't call them the worst. I just can't. When I look at teams, the Cowboys in the playoffs have one of the best running backs. Check. One of the better offensive lines. Check. One of the better defensive lines. Check. The best linebacking core. Check. One of the top secondaries. So is everybody saying that Dak Prescott is just that bad? Absolutely not. To me, they're not the worst team in the playoffs. Who is? I mean, if you look at it, if you just go top to bottom, the Chicago Bears are the worst team. They have the best defense, but offensively, I will take the Dallas Cowboys offense over the Chicago Bears offense any day of the week. Any day of the week.
TJ, you had me all the way
until the end.
Until the end.
You left that quarterback in that equation.
So you'll take Mitchell Trubisky over Dak Prescott?
No, you know what? I wouldn't.
You would take Howard over Ezekiel Elliott?
It's not so much, and we'll get into
this.
You're
talking about the play caller.
Exactly.
Yes, but the players, you got to execute. You got to execute.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that's interesting to me about this matchup, because they're playing Seattle. They're both constructed fairly similar. They're going to run the ball. This is, and again, I have a hard time differentiating between they're the worst and they're the worst, because I'm looking at the matchup and I'm like, all right, this is going to go from 12 or 13 possessions down to about 9, because both these teams are going to run the snot out of the ball. So within 9 possessions, which quarterback do I trust in those 9 possessions to put up points? And I trust Russell Wilson. So maybe they're not the worst team, but this, to me, is an interesting matchup, and it really favors Seattle simply because they're both constructed almost the same way.
Yeah, when we look at this matchup, who do you trust more? It's no question. I think it's a no-brainer. We're all going to go with Russell Wilson because of his track record, because of what we know he does.
Who would you rather face,
in the fourth
Seattle's defense or Dallas's defense? Who would you rather, the opposing offense, who would you rather go? Seattle's defense has played great as of late, but early in the season, they couldn't stop anything.
Right.
They're going to load up on the run. They're going to get man-to-man. You can't load up the run and double Amari Cooper. You got to do one or the other.
And I'm with you. I'm saying that the Dallas, they're not the worst team in the playoffs, but when you throw the Bears out there.
No. I'm not saying.
Who's the worst team then? Who's the worst team? If it's not Dallas, who is it?
I personally think the Eagles are the worst team in the playoffs right now.
I don't know who's the worst team, to be honest with you. If I had to pick one, I would say the Chicago offense is the worst. Like it's hard to go the full team because do you look at the Eagles defensive line? Haloti Ngata, Fletcher Cox, Michael Bennett, Brandon Graham, Chris Long. Yeah, their secondary is not very strong. Does Chicago throw the ball that great?
I understand.
I just feel if you need to win games in big time playoff situations, the quarterback is what's going to come down to. It's an easier conversation because of who they play. If they were playing someone else, then we can say, yeah, they got a shot at being second best or third, whatever, or second worst in the league. But they're playing a team that we all know that has a high possibility of them going home. That's why this conversation makes it easier to call them the worst.
Yeah.
Worst.
I think the one thing about Chicago that's been really interesting and having, called one of their games and having met Matt Nagy is from an offensive standpoint, from a creativity standpoint, a play calling standpoint, a schematic standpoint, I just think he is really at the top of his game. I'm with you on Mitchell Trubisky, although he does make some plays with his feet. Not that Dak can't, because Dak can. And I think that's got to be part of your game plan going in here, especially in the red zone. I think Dak has got to run the football. I think there's got to be designed runs to take some of the pressure off of him, throwing the football and making sure he doesn't hold it in the pocket.
So do we trust Dak at all in this game?
I trust him. His only playoff game, he was lights out. He was lights out against Green Bay. He was lights out. He didn't lose that game. He threw for over 300 yards. He played extremely well. Can they run the ball effectively? Can Amari Cooper beat man-to-man coverage consistently? Seattle's going to man you up. They're going to play 8 in the box, single high coverage, one safety in the middle of the field. If they're able to run the ball effectively, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I like Dallas to win this game.
They had success running the football against Seattle early in the season. We'll see if they can have success coming up. Coming up, Nick Foles has the Eagles on another incredible run. But will the Bears put an end to the magic? We get into that coming up next.